Hey, so thanks for tuning in to another edition of Ambassador Talk right here on AFW2's social media presence. We're here to introduce today another fellow ambassador. His name's Greg. And Greg, I think you have a story that people may not assume is attached to you because you're a retired chief master sergeant. A lot of folks just think at this point in your career, and you're recently retired, that you are invincible, but that's really not the case. Would you like to introduce yourself to the folks on the call?
Absolutely. So I'm Greg Bicknell. I'm a 29-year retired chief. I retired back in May of 2019, and I was medically retired. Uh, 26 years in, I ended up started having some issues, balance issues, and all of that. And then I had surgery in 2018, which actually ended up coming out of the surgery worse than I went in. And during that recovery, and trying to get through it. I had a lot of things flooding forward, like you talked about the invincibility. Well, I always kind of kept that stone face on it. And when you're at a moment that you're not really sure what's out in front of you and what's to come, I became very vulnerable, and I came to a point to where I just couldn't hold those emotions back in. And before it wasn't an effort. And here lately, I've learned how that, holding those in wasn't exactly the right way to go to begin with. So that's kind of my story.
I have a middle school daughter, and we've talked about what strength looks like either on the outside or on the inside. And she doesn't like to ask for help because she thinks, from her friends and from television and from social media that the strength is just putting on that good face. But we have long conversations about strength is asking for help, and I think maybe the generation you and I grew up with. Strength wasn't always defined as that. Do you have a slightly different message retiring from the Air Force after almost 3 decades of serving our airmen? Has your message changed as far as what help looks like, what strength looks like?
No, and I appreciate you pointing out that 3 decades shot there. So chief to chief, that's appreciated. I don't know if I take that as a shot in the face, but hey, old guy. But anyway, the
It's
the
nothing but love, Greg.
yeah. Oh, I know, it's great. That's great. But I will tell you that when I was in, we always hear this statement that says mission first, people always. Well, honestly, after I retired, I realized that that's not right. At least I don't feel it's right. I think it's people first, people always, because people is what took care of me my entire career. And when I used to hear that statement, the mission first, people always, I would think, well, why isn't it people? Why isn't it? Because we do take care of people. We do put ourselves out there. There's a lot of folks, for me in particular, I will tell you that strength now I do see differently. So great, great question. The ability for me to sit down and have a conversation and do this on live air is the hardest thing I've ever done. The first time I talked at the Wounded Warrior Ambassador Week, I struggled. I mean, it physically hurt to be able to sit there and look at folks and say, yeah, you know what, I'm not the person you see. And I'll give you another shot. As I talked to a person this week, and I went down to Warriors Ascent in Kansas City, great program, and I left and I had some time to go see some of my old friends over at Whiteman. And I talked to a buddy and I kind of started telling him because I think it's important that I share my story. And he looked at me and he said, Greg, out of everybody I know, out of everybody in the world, I would have never thought you would be telling me this right now. and I looked at him and I said, you know what? You're right. And that's where the problem's at. And that's why I'm willing to have that conversation now, is because people don't expect it. We're not invincible. We are people. And, I hurt my family, to be honest with you. When I went through that surgery, my family needed assistance. They needed someone to reach out to. But because I'd always been that stone cold person that really just handled everything, had the stoic face, what you would kind of expect in meetings and things, my family became me in that situation and they didn't reach out for help. And when I look back on that, that was a rough time. That was a place to where they needed to be able to reach out, but they followed my lead and they didn't because they didn't want anyone thinking any less of, the chief. And I realized after I retired and I've sit with them and we've had conversations and they've had a few very direct conversations with me. What they told me was, Dad, after your surgery, I know that we've had a lot of issues and there's been a lot of things, but my oldest daughter one day said, you know what you got out of surgery that's good? And I said, what's that? And she goes, you got feelings. You caught feelings in there. They must have hit that nerve And I think it's true because 3 years ago I would have never had this conversation because I was too busy focusing on the mission. I was too busy focusing on what we had to get done, and quite honestly, I wasn't busy enough on listening to people when they had stories like mine now, because I was focused on the mission. I love people and I did my best to take care of them. I didn't do everything right, but I will just tell you that when folks would come to me and we had a mission or something that was going on or deployment, they would say, "Hey, I'm going through some issues," and I would look at it and say, "Okay, cool. Are you going to be on there or not? Can I put you on the deployment?" And that's wrong. That is absolutely wrong. And when people start talking, I didn't listen like I should have. I didn't. And I look back on that now, and man, the folks out there, if you happen to be one of the people I said that to, I was wrong. I apologize. I should have listened better. I should have listened more. And we should have sit down and figured something out. Yeah, I followed up. Yeah, we had conversations with many of you. But you know what? That mentality of let's just get it done, that doesn't always work. And for me, it worked for 26 years until all of a sudden something happened, and then everything started flooding forward.
It's interesting in today's conversations, and probably over the past decade, more and more folks are being aware of not just IQ but EQ, emotional intelligence. What not just taking for what people say for face value, but being empathetic toward what it is that makes them tick. What it is that drives their feelings, and then understanding root causes for why people are in situations, or at least trying to uh, step inside someone else's shoes. I'm glad that you've encountered that realization, because I think a lot of people, especially in this generation, are moving forward and trying to be better versions of themselves than they were yesterday. So when you were at the end of your career, while you were still serving active duty, and you had gone through this medical surgery that, as you said, didn't go the way as intended, somewhere along the lines, you were reached out to by the Air Force Wounded Warrior Program. What were your original
Mhm.
feelings about that when you were first contacted and/or first referred?
So I had my local RCC, uh, Deb Mortini, at Dice Air Force Base. She reached out to me, and I'm like, man, do I qualify for this? Is this something like really like I thought it was for a guy that lost their leg or some folks that has a Purple Heart or something like that. And she said, no, there's services that we can offer because you're going, you you're going through some stuff that I think we can help. And I said, well, I appreciate it. And to be honest with you, I didn't know what was in front of me. I didn't know what to expect. But I will tell you that she was absolutely right. And old hard headed Chief Bicknell didn't want to reach out for help, just like I had always not reached out for help. And here lately, when I was kind of realized that I needed some assistance, not kind of, I did. There was no kind of to it. I needed some help. Um, I started reaching back out, and my non-medical care provider, Dana Washington, or Dawn Washington, she she started asking me, Greg, do you want to be a part of the ambassador program? You had talked about it before you decided to go back to work, and I was like, you know what, I would love to, because you guys have done so much for me, and checking on me and making sure I was set up and providing me a path to success. It was, I mean, I just can't repay that. And so coming to the ambassador program, and she requested me to come in, it was the least I could do. But honestly, my heart's in it. I love people. I want to take care of people. But I got to take care of me. That's the thing I'm learning right now. It was always about other people. I got to take care of this person. I got to take care of that person. And I will tell you that sitting through the week of Wounded Warrior Ambassador, the training and understanding and hearing other people's stories and their support and their comments, and people, I was around people that are just like me, and then going to Warriors Ascent, to where I was in that same kind of a situation, but in a different environment. I realized, you know what? It's if I don't take care of me, I can't do all the things that I want to do, and I can't provide assistance to someone if I don't step up and say, you know what, I got some issues that I got to deal with, dude. And that's why I'm here today.
No, I dig it, and I especially like the fact that during your story you reflect. You reflect on the tail end of your career, and then the growth up until the day you became an Air Force Wounded Warrior Ambassador, and then just the reason that you want to do this is to let people know, kind of the theme of what we've been talking about today, that a sign of strength is reaching out for help. That's not a cliche phrase. Like, it's the truth. It is your truth. And I think it's something that is imperative for people to know, that you don't have to be classified as what you would consider a traditional combat wounded veteran if you have major medical diagnoses, if you are going through traumatic events, or if you have gone through traumatic events in the past, if you are facing, medical evaluation boards, and or are just put in a medical situation where you don't have all the answers, but you need someone there to be your support system. I like the fact that you bring up all these things, because that's why AFW2 exists. That's why the Air Force Wounded Warrior Program is still operating today. And in your opinion, what would you tell someone who's on the fence? Someone that doesn't know if they qualify, someone that doesn't know if they should, and then could you expand on the reason that you went forth, and maybe kind of put your fears to the side?
Yeah, I'll tell you that if somebody's on the fence, then jump the daggone fence. If you're on the fence, that means you're thinking about it, which means you probably should let the professionals decide and say, hey, look, I need some help here. I don't know if I qualify, but you know what? Just ask and say, here's what I've got going on. Because I didn't know if I qualified either. And like I said, I had a good support system around me, and this whole community is a great support system. So if somebody's on the fence, don't be on the fence. Just literally say, hey, do I qualify? And then we'll sort it out from there. And if you want, yeah, let me just leave it at that. If you're on the fence, don't be on the fence. Get over there and ask the question, because that's the biggest step, and that's the one that helped me the most, was literally just reaching out and asking. And I've had a whole different feeling in my soul, a whole different feeling about what I do and the way that I carry myself. Just knowing that there's people out there that are just like me, folks out there that struggle with real issues, knowing that my problems are literally my problems, and I shouldn't be comparing that to anybody else's. So if I would have went with the old guy that sit there and said, you know what, I got to be this dude, a character myself, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. At some point, there was a change. At some point, there was a switch that flipped, and luckily I listened, because in the past I would have just said, all right, switch, you're staying off. I'm gonna put some duct tape over you so nobody can turn you off, like we do in the offices. Uh, and I literally, uh, I just had to open up to be able to do it. And my life right now, it's on its way up. I still have struggles every day. Rough night of sleep last night, to be quite honest with you. I wasn't sure I was not going to give you a phone call and say I just can't make it today, because as you can imagine, I resigned from my job on Monday
These
because I realized it was the
conversations,
best for me.
yeah, these conversations aren't easy, and you obviously concerned about your mental well-being and health. I think you have bigger and better things that you want to do, in your opinion, that are better for your well-being and your soul. My question for you, and this is kind of rounding off this conversation, um, and I think it's really important for people to know about you. You grew up as an aircraft maintenance flight line member,
That's right. That's right.
and you spent again a preponderance of the past 2.5 3 decades serving the United States Air Force, and going through every single rank, right?
Right.
And you basically took all of your problems and you internalized them and you kept them in. These things ended up like eating away at you just after you retired from the Air Force. I mean, you and I had talked about it previously. uh, and at that point, does that help you make your decision in your head to continue to receive services and or support and or friendship from your folks in AFW2? And I'm not sure if I'm phrasing that correctly. Maybe I'm saying, because of where you are at today, has AFW2 done enough for you to kind of get you in the right headspace, right place, right support system?
So I'll tell you that, being an aircraft maintainer, I'll just speak for myself. I won't speak for everybody. I can tend to be hard headed. I know the folks that know me are going to find that as a shocking revelation. And I don't always listen like I should, and I don't always do things the way that maybe everybody would hope that I would. Uh, but I will tell you, the fact that Wounded Warrior has been there, the fact I was able to reach out, the fact that Don said, "Hey, you want to be a part of this, and you wanted to get the ambassador," the fact that I can call Deb anytime that I want to. Yeah, I mean, it's a thing that it doesn't really matter if you're a cop, security forces, hospital. It doesn't matter, or if you're a civilian and you need help and you can't, you don't go through Wounded Warrior. But if you ask me, I'm going to find something. I'm going to help you out. Uh, but yeah, it's an amazing group of people. from my, in my opinion, and I just hope to contribute to that. And I do appreciate the fact that I was invited into that community, your community, now to be an ambassador, not just folks that's taking care, but I want to be able to help and give back. But yeah, it doesn't matter where you sit. And I think the biggest thing for me that I've learned through this whole process is that sometimes you just have to take a step back and you have to figure out what's really important. I love my family. I love my friends. I love coworkers. But sometimes you just got to get real with yourself, and you got to look yourself in the eye, and you got to say, "Hey, I need something. I need something a little bit different because this isn't quite doing for me what I think it needs to." And the other part of that is when you're a supervisor and you're in the military, it doesn't matter where you're at. And somebody walks up to you and says the things like I just said, you know what? You better listen. You have to listen because I didn't listen all the time. And there's some folks I was, man, on my way out, it was amazing. But you got to listen. When someone comes to you, don't just assume that it's the 50th person that said it today. It doesn't matter. That 50th person may have a bullet waiting on when they get home. That 50th person may be me that's sitting there in a room, literally thinking about where I'm going to end up next, and reach out and somebody says, "Nah, I don't have time for you. Just make an appointment." That's crap. That doesn't work. It doesn't work for me. It didn't work for me then. And it sure as heck doesn't work for me now. So if you're out there and you're on the leader side of that, listen. Listen, you may be the last person that someone reaches out to. And if you're out there thinking about it, reach out. And hopefully somebody's on the other end that'll do it. And if they're not there, you know what? Call me, text me, email me. I don't care. Send a hummingbird with something attached to its foot. I don't care how you get it there. That sounds a little stupid, but that's kind of where I'm at, right? We're here to help. I know the Air Force Wounded Warrior program has helped me. They're there to help because, man, it's just incredible what I'm seeing. But if you're a leader, lead. And if you need some help, ask for it.
I definitely appreciate. I think we all appreciate your perspective, Greg, especially when you're talking about both sides of the fence. And reaching out for help is not, again, a sign of weakness. And then for the flip side, if someone is reaching out to you, it is a sign of strength to
Absolutely.
immediately respond to the people that need you. That's what we're charged with, regardless of, whether you're enlisted, commissioned, guard, reserve, or active. And that, again, to further that support system, aside from your local leadership, if you are uh, meeting at least the minimum qualifications for being a part of the Air Force Wounded Warrior program through the plethora of reasons that you could qualify for, that support system is 1000% here to support you as well. Of course, this is a webcast, so we have to encourage folks, if you haven't been to woundedwarrior.airforce.mil.af.mil, definitely encourage you to check that website to see what the steps are. You can self-nominate, you can nominate others, and you can get all sorts of tips, tricks, and information for what the program is about and how we can support you. So, Greg, I apologize. I know I've kind of kept you long on this conversation. Is there anything that you would like to add?
I think I've said enough, but the last thing I would like to leave folks with is if you need help, just ask for it. I'll reiterate that. And if you're a leader, lead. And leading means listening, not always just giving direction.
That's true. Hey, Greg, thanks so much for your time. And for everyone watching this webcast, tune in next week as we talk to more ambassadors speaking to ambassadors through Ambassadors Talk.